This article is interesting in that, yes, it is Britain, but what they are experiencing in Britain mimics or mirrors what is going on here in the United States. So this one is titled How Retiring Baby Boomers Risk Plunging Britain into Crisis. Offsetting the cost of retiring boomers and the declining birth rate will require Herculean economic growth. I will let y'all know I am not familiar with Britain's exchange rate and all its currency. They use a symbol that says PC, and at first I was like, is that pence? But pence is denoted with a P, and I know what pounds look like. So somebody will have to come in and educate me when I start talking about the currency and the denominations because I'm not sure. Britain has an aging problem, and it's going to cost a fortune. With baby boomers retiring, the global workforce will lose its largest contingent at a time when too few children are being born to replace them. It means our population is on course to gray at an unprecedented degree, taking the share of people aged 65 and above to about one quarter by 2040, according to a new report by the Centers for Policy Studies, or CPS. That is up from just 5 PC in 1908 when the state pension was introduced to 19 PC today. And this is where I say somebody is going to have to educate me on what PC is. So this graph shows the share of people over the age of 65 and how the country is just getting older and older because people are not having that many kids. Okay, this will bring with it unprecedented cost for pensions, medical, and care, with the government spending on the elderly expected to quadruple from 225 billion pounds to 950 billion pounds by 2072, according to CPS. More crucially, this expenditure is set to double as the share of GDP to 21 PC over the period. That means more tax will be needed to pay for it, or other spending will have to fall, threatening a vicious cycle where a shrinking younger workforce has to fork over ever larger sums to support the elderly. Avoiding a calamity will require a Herculean effort on many fronts, says Carl Williams, Deputy Research Director at the CPS. To offset the impact of the aging population, the UK economy will need to grow by 2.9 PC every year for the next 50 years. But on present trends, growth for the next 5 years will average an annual rate of just 1.4 PC, according to the Office of Budget Responsibility. This person says we're at risk of accepting a doom loop narrative, but actually none of this has to be inevitable. There are ways we can avert it. So what are the best suggestions? The best suggestions: have more babies. Perhaps the most simple answer is that people could have more children, boosting economic output and generating more tax. Yet Britain's birth rate today languishes well below the replacement rate of 2.1 children per woman, following decades of decline. Women in the UK have 1.61 children each in 2021. That is down from the post-war peak of 2.9 in 1964 and 1.9 as recently as 2012, official figures show. We are by no means alone in this, with birth rates generally falling across the West. But campaigners say the problem is exacerbated in Britain, where would-be parents face a plethora of high costs, ranging from unaffordable housing to extortionate childcare fees and muddled tax incentives. And so this is the reason why I said America and Britain mirror in this. Our birth rate is exactly the same, and women are talking about all of the issues ranging from childcare to cost of living to, just bills being too damn high. The UK suffers from some of the highest childcare costs in the world at about £936 per month. That's close to $1,200. Meanwhile, the price of a typical home costs £351 per square feet, compared to £212 per square feet in France and £236 per square feet in Germany. When combined with a punishing tax regime, it can make having a child less attractive for women who also value their careers. Alice Denby, editor of CapX, an opinion-focused news website owned by the CPS, found childcare swallowed up 70 PC of her post-tax earnings when she returned to work part-time after having her daughter, Matilda. We were lucky because we were able to afford it, but it felt like going to work was an expensive lifestyle decision. A plethora of policy solutions have been suggested. In France, which has Europe's highest fertility rate, families are given money off their tax bills. Hungary has also managed to reverse its declining birth rate in the past decade through a mix of pro-natalist policies, including a total exemption from income tax for women who bear 4 children. In this vein, one conservative cabinet member sparked the headline "Bonk for Britain" last year. Bonk for Britain. Last year, when they suggested similar tax breaks here. Phoebe Arsalangic Little, co-founder of Pro Families campaign Boom and a policy analyst, argues the best thing the government can do is focus on lifting the barriers that parents and prospective parents face to growing or starting their families. This includes making childcare more affordable, building more homes, extending parental leave for fathers, ensuring more women can access IVF. But even so, that may not be a surefire way to boost the birth rate, warns Michael Murphy, emeritus professor of demography at the London School of Economics. He has just returned from a trip to Finland, where childcare and housing are much cheaper than in the UK, but where the fertility rate is even lower. There doesn't appear to be any magic bullet. Another way to boost the young population is by allowing more working age migrants into Britain. But this is one of the solutions often advocated for by business lobby groups, which have urged ministers to loosen restrictions to help ease staff shortages. So this graph here shows the number of working age people per pensioner. So as you can see, it is a pretty sharp decline. I have not seen the graph in the United States, but I presume that it is a pretty sharp decline considering our fallen birth rates as well. Okay, this person. But Murphy warns this is a Ponzi scheme, as in allowing more immigrants in the long run, because eventually migrants will grow old and require care as well. So that is the conundrum that that Britain is facing currently. All right, join in the conversation, and if anybody can correct me and let me know what PC means, please jump in. I always love that people know precisely the articles to send me. This one is entitled "Putin Asked Russian Women to Have 8 or More Children Amid Deaths in His War." And she's like, "Failed incentives?" And I just laughed because, yes, this is failed incentives, because I remember he was offering like $8,000 per child like this summer or something. And so then I'm like, eight, just eight, why not 10? And she's like, why not 100? We have to repopulate. And of course, women are not their own people and rather baby making machines for the president's usage. Absolutely. That is what women are put here for, to be incubators, and that's it. Serve men. That's what we're here for. Let's get into the article though. It's crazy to think, but war is not good for your population. It actually exacerbates population decline, especially when the birth rate is on the decline. So Putin is urging Russian women to have more kids because he went into this war with Ukraine and it's not going well. Putin has urged Russian women to have 8 or more children and make large families the norm amid soaring numbers of casualties in his war against the Ukraine. Russian birth rates have been steadily declining since the 90s, and the country has suffered more than 300,000 casualties since the start of the Ukraine conflict, according to data maintained by the Kyiv. In a speech via video link at the World Russian People's Council in Moscow on Tuesday, Mr. Putin said, "Boosting the Russian population will be our goal for the coming decades. Many of our peoples maintain the tradition of the family where 4 or 5 or more children are raised," said Mr. Putin. "Recall that in Russian families, our grandmothers and great-grandmothers had both 7 and 8 children. Let us preserve and revive these traditions. Having many children, a large family, should become a norm, a way of life for all the peoples of Russia." Putin has only actually acknowledged 2 of his kids, his daughter with his former wife, Vladimila, and those daughters are Maria Vorontsova and Katerina Tikhonova, who were hit with U.S. sanctions after the invasion last year. I apologize for not being able to say these names correctly. Nonetheless, it has been rumored in the Russian press that he has multiple other offspring from his affairs with millionaire Svetlana Krivojnik and Olympic gold medal winning gymnast Elena Kabaeva. The Russian president's comments did not directly refer to the scale of casualties suffered by Russian troops in his invasion in the Ukraine. And I'm sure that he is not going to acknowledge that, yes, he might have a big family too. It's just with a bunch of outside women. The ongoing war is entering its second winter and has forced Mr. Putin to order partial conscription, with Russian media reports from September saying Moscow aimed to mobilize up to 1 million reservists. Earlier this month, UK's Ministry of Defense said the number of dead Russian soldiers in the Ukraine has likely crossed 300,000. The UK ministry also said thousands of bodies have been deserted on the battlefield. The invasion has also led to an estimated 820,000 to 920,000 people fleeing Russia, according to the Independent Policy Group regarding Russia. Other harmful impacts faced by Russia due to the invasion, including severe workforce shortage and an increasing economic slowdown brought about by the sanctions imposed by the West. Russia has been witnessing a decline in its birth rate since before the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Experts attribute this decline to the deteriorating economic and stringent abortion regulations act as deterrents for potential parents. The Russian president has tried to increase the country's ailing birth rate by implementing various government incentives for individuals with children, including financial rewards for families with more than one child, since coming into power 24 years. But for some reason, these measures aren't working. The measures have shown minimal to no effect, according to data from Rosstat, Russia's Federal Statistics Service, cited by Le Monde newspaper. The Russian population was reported to be about 146.5 million as of January 1st, lower than the figure in 1999 when Putin assumed the presidency. So crazy, it's not working, but let's get out there, ladies. Let's hunch for humanity.